We have, if you've been with us all day, been showing these pictures over and over again. They are dramatic, they are the story, they are what happened, and they are unlike anything we have ever seen before in real life.
A synchronicity is basically any event that resonates any other event. And basically everything resonates everything else. If I explain a synchronicity in a film, because we're such a mediated society, people relate to that, they understand that, and we all share that. So you can look at you can explain a movie or a scene from Star Wars or 2001: Space Odyssey, and people will generally know that because we're so aware of pop culture. And then you can point out the synchronicity between that and another event, maybe a historical event or maybe a news piece, whatever it is, and we can share that experience now. I was hearing a lot of tantalizing bits and pieces that sounded really fascinating, like the Twin Towers are perhaps the two pillars that you would see in any Freemasonic hall, and the Pentagon being a veiled pentagram, which you would also see on the floor as the blazing star or on a tracing board, a Freemasonic tracing board. And those were like some of the most interesting bits about 9/11 to me, the symbolism in that. And then I was trying to find movies that feature the World Trade Center, thinking that maybe if synchronicity can tell us more about the World Trade Center, maybe we can look at the associated context in those films, because many of these films, pre-9/11 films and media pieces, comic books, etc., show the Twin Towers being destroyed. Actually, an alarming amount, making you sort of wonder if the artist had unconscious knowledge about 9/11, or whether 9/11 was such a potent event that it affected things non-locally. And so I started looking into synchronicities involving the Twin Towers, any movie, any media that I could find about the Twin Towers. And a very vivid one was when I looked into Escape from New York with Kurt Russell, and he flies his hand glider towards there and lands on top of the Twin Towers, and then you watch the movie Stargate and you realize he's the first person, the first human representative through the Stargate, which opens up into these pyramids on a distant planet. And I thought that was really interesting because I was reading Ralph Ellis at that point, and he was saying that the symbolism the Freemasons use for the Twin Towers comes from Giza, and that Giza, the two pillars of Egypt, are the two great pyramids, the two major pyramids. And those have been incorporated into Solomon's Temple, and Solomon's Temple has become the tracing board, and the Freemasons use it. So it seemed to me that you could associate the Twin Towers with the pyramids of Giza through that logic. And in that sense, you're seeing Kurt Russell, the first person to go through the Stargate, landing atop the Twin Towers, which resonated to me, pyramids and stargates and all these concepts, and I felt there's a real interesting connection there. At one point, I'm not sure how it happened, I was on the internet just looking for anything about the World Trade Center. I was sort of obsessed with the World Trade Center and the Twin Towers. And I just noticed that there was this building that looks a lot like the monolith from 2001: Space Odyssey in Manhattan. It looks like it's near the World Trade Center complex, and I just kept looking, and it's really near. And a little bit of research revealed that it was actually flush with the Twin Towers. This building, it's called the Millennium Hilton, and it's actually intentionally designed to look like the 2001 monolith. And this object, this black monolith that in the film opens the Stargate in 2001, is flush with the World Trade Center, the Twin Towers, or the pyramids, and the synchronicity of a building representing the Stargate next to the twin pillars of Solomon's Temple, perhaps, which you could see as the holiest of holies, which is has now come down and been destroyed, and sort of like you can think of it as a portal or a gateway. So it seemed to correlate with the idea of Kurt Russell landing on the pyramids landing on the pillars, landing on the World Trade Center, and him being the first person going through the Stargate. So we have a few pieces of media coming together and expressing this idea of 9/11 connected to the Stargate, and this eventually evolved into what I call the 9/11 mega ritual, or the opening of the Stargate of cosmic consciousness. Consciousness focusing on any particular event will by necessity be dramatic, and our minds were sort of silenced on 9/11. Our usual pattern, our day-to-day lives were altered. The entire planet went out of their pattern, looked at one event, and what they were looking at was a symbolic pillar and a pentagon. And it seems like that was a ritual, a ritualistic event that has altered the flow of history. It's moved from being an intellectual game to becoming a complete spiritual path to awakening. And the more I follow the synchronicities, the more it's like I'm in a strange attractor that's pulling me towards greater knowing of myself and of everybody else, and helping people to, through synchronicity, discover their true self beyond form and beyond their limited identity and their small perception of who they are. Gnosis is true knowledge, knowledge discovered from the source, and synchronicity points you towards the source. And so it's inseparable from gnosis. Synchronicity, in a way, is gnosis.
Gnosis.